Please call the meeting to order. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first up we have some recognitions, and first up, who is going to be taking the,
I've got
Aaron?
it. Yep.
All right, Aaron, why don't you take that? We've got some good news.
All right, so our first one is the Wisconsin School Counselor Association Programs of Promise Award. So tonight we have the privilege of honoring the important work being done through our school counseling program. So we welcome Kelly Curtis, Aria Kreeser, Chris Strop, and Sarah Fleer, elementary school counselor. So this year, 7 school counseling programs across the state received the prestigious Program of Promise Award from the Wisconsin School Counselor Association. Hudson represents 4 of these schools: EP Rock, Hudson Prairie, North Hudson, and Willow River. The Program of Promise Award is the highest recognition that a comprehensive school counseling program can receive from WISCA. This award is granted to a small number of Wisconsin schools each year. To be considered, the school counselors must submit an accountability report fulfilling stringent data expectations set forth by the School Counseling Association. The report demonstrates the impact that the school counseling program has on the academic, social, emotional, and career developments of students in school. As a school and community, we value and recognize the importance of high-performing school counseling programs, and are incredibly proud to honor these professionals and their schools tonight. So that's the first one.
Well, in the letter that in the letter that the board has, I noted that each of the schools are mentioned, but we have individuals here. So if you could introduce
Absolutely.
the individuals' names, please.
So first here is Sarah Fleer from Willow River, Kelly Curtis from EP Rock, Aria Kreeser from Hudson Prairie Elementary, and Chris Strop from North Hudson.
All right, great. And do we want them to each highlight what it was that they were recognized for? I think this is outstanding.
Sure,
We've
that'd
got
be great. Yep.
7 awards in the entire state, and 4 of them come from the Hudson School
Right.
District. So.
And I know we kind of come back year after year because we are recognized so often, but it doesn't really devalue the importance of that. And so we just need to remember that as well. So, yeah.
And I want to honor each of the achievements, so if you could just say a few words about what it was that got the school district the recognition.
Okay, so this is, and chime in here, but we show different data that shows outcome data. So we're looking for student achievement, behavioral changes too that are positive. And so we find 3 different data areas that we want to target based on our program. We're very data focused, so we notice where our gaps are, where the inequities are with our students, and we kind of attack those with interventions and groups and classroom core curriculum. So for me, I think one of the biggest ones was our building leadership team wanted the goal was to have 65% of our students meeting their goal target in ELA on the maps. And so I found the class that was the farthest from that, at 45% of them meeting the goal. And through core curriculum, collaboration with those teachers, I did small groups with the students who were not meeting that goal or the farthest away from it. And we went from 45% of our 3rd graders meeting their target goal in ELA spring maps to 76% of them hitting their target goal, which they were very proud of it. They'd race down to my office and tell me, I made my goal. And that was probably the best part of it.
Okay, so that was for Willow River?
Willow River.
Okay.
Again, so each of us had to focus on 3 different areas, and I think that we focus on a lot more than that. But we just kind of look at where our more of that results data is coming. So I had something similar to what Sarah did there. I also focused on a calendar club, so students that were not attending regularly on time. Focused on them heavily during January to try to improve that attendance. Had really good results from that. And then the third piece of data I had was really looking at the office discipline referrals for whites and non-whites, and we saw that there was quite a gap there. So we did a lot of work on just whether it be work with staff so that we all kind of understood that there was that gap. And then we really focused on new student programming because we noticed that quite a lot of the non-white students who were earning a lot of ODRs were also new students to this area. And so really helping them to acclimate made a huge difference and reduce that gap, actually eliminated it for that group. So.
Excellent.
Hi. It's kind of funny, we all have very similar data because I think when we look at it, it's very similar. So all of us have MAP scores data that we looked at, and we tried to, close some gaps and get kids to hitting their 60th percentile. I think all of us looked at attendance and did things with attendance. I worked with my school nurse on kids that were out of the class down in her office based on like worries or anxiety and getting them more in the classroom because we all know if you're in the classroom then you're learning more. And then looking at ODRs, males versus females. Our males tend to get more ODRs, so kind of closing that gap. So kind of interesting, but it's fun. It's good.
So this is what happens when you're last. So again, increasing test scores by doing a growth mindset group, and then increasing attendance and decreasing tardies, and then doing a worry-free group that would help increase class performance, less time out of class into the health office. So.
Excellent.
And I would like to say too that since we started doing this probably about 7 years ago, I think what we've seen is exactly this. We look at each other's data and we say, well, how'd you do that? Because that seemed to really work. Can you give me your stuff? And then we share each other's stuff and we do it and it works for everybody. So I feel like the collaboration that has happened in the last 7 years or so has really grown a lot because of this kind of process.
Right, and the decisions we make for our programs are all based on, they're data-driven.
Well, and I think it's great to see the consistency between all of our schools. So we're treating some equitable treatment there of our students. So,
Mr. President?
yes, Rob.
And so it's great to hear that you guys are collaborating, which is fantastic. There are 421 school districts in the state, and to have 7 districts overall, or schools recognized, 4 of them, again, to Jamie's point, be recognized in Hudson. Outside of collaboration, what are we doing that just makes us stand out? I mean, to have 4 schools, what are we doing that's so above and beyond?
Well, I can say that we have probably the best colleagues and team, really, I can say that. I've been here for quite a while. Very collaborative. It's about what we can do for all, not as individuals. Sharing data, sharing information, helping one another be better. Caring about kids, having a director that cares about us and our students.
And I think our staff and our principals who support us and allow us to do the work that we were trained to do is a huge part of it too, because I have time to put efforts into this and we have time to work on this because of the supports of people. We couldn't pull kids out for groups to do this. We couldn't collaborate with teachers to do programming like this and see these kind of results if we didn't have my staff and my principals, and I think you guys would agree. You're probably a huge part of it.
And a focus on students.
Right. So we have comprehensive school counseling programs, and not all buildings or all districts are able to do that. And the reason we're able to have that kind of planning that goes into our programming is because there is planning and there is time allowed and there is support from the district, from the building, great staff to work with. People know that what we do helps.
And I think for all of us too, when we get together, we have passion for what we do. We love it. So.
And great principals that support us.
Thank you.
All right. Well, and thank you again for your teamwork and for bringing the recognition to the district. I think, and I like the fact that about sharing the credit with others. On that note, I think I ask 3 of you to sit down, but Sarah stays up. And who gets to introduce Sarah?
So, in addition to the Program of Promise Award at Willow River, Sarah Fleer has been named the Wisconsin School Counselor of the Year,
All right.
which is an amazing one. So, every February, the Wisconsin School Counselor Association recognizes individuals within the school counseling profession who demonstrate a profound impact on the school counseling profession and the lives of students. Award recipients are determined based off of their contributions to the school counseling program, leadership, and service to their community. I know it goes without saying, but this is a huge honor not only for Sarah and Willow River, but our entire Raider community. So this is a big deal. Congratulations.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from board members? I think we've said it all as far as you explaining how we get there, but thank you for your efforts in bringing pride to our district.
Absolutely.
And after we see that recognition, now we're going to move on to winter athletics. And I'll turn it over at this time. Jess, I guess you're going to be standing in for Aaron.
I am. I'm here helping Aaron out this evening as his wife is in labor today. So I just want to thank the board for having us here tonight. And I'm going to have Izzy and Jordan, a couple AMP students, kind of lead us through, and then I'll come back up and close it out.
Hi, I'm Izzy Hughes,
I'm Jordan Yakub.
and we're representatives of the AMP Club. That stands for Athletes Making Progress, and we're an organization of athletes working to. We kind of organize events in the community and at the school to bring all of the students together. It's a really fun club. We want to congratulate the senior athletes who had the top GPA in their sports, and there's a list of everybody right there.
And we want to start out by congratulating Rachel Ball, Alicia Bellany, Tony Weeks for receiving an Academic All-State Award from the Wisconsin Cross Country Coaches Association. This award is earned by individuals participating in the state cross country meet who also maintained a cumulative GPA point average of 3.5 or higher. Rachel Ball was also named the All-State team receiving honorable mention status, and Noah Lundeen was named to the All-State team receiving second team recognition.
We also want to congratulate Charlie Neuenschwander and Rachel Ball, who have been selected for the WIAA Scholar Athlete nominees. And to be considered for this nomination, they had to receive a 3.5 GPA or higher and earn at least 4 varsity letters. So congratulations to those individuals.
So first is boys basketball.
Hello, I'm Charlie Neuenschwander. I'm Luke Healy. Prop this thing up a little bit. So, like I said, we're part of boys basketball. We had a great season this year. We finished with a record of 17-6, and we were actually able to beat 4 teams that won their conference. We beat DC Everest, Chippewa Falls, who won our conference, Superior, and also New Richmond. Yeah. Kind of coming into this year, we had a lot of expectations for ourselves. Last year we had a good year. We were 20-5. We made it to the sectional finals. We were 1 shot away from state. Except we were also losing a lot of people, so we knew that some teams were going to be down on us. I didn't necessarily think that we could perform to the level that we knew we were able to perform. But I think that we really leaned on each other this year. All the people on our team were best friends. We hang out all the time, inside the gym, outside the gym, whether it's like getting food with each other, getting some extra shots up with each other. We were able to come together as a family this year, and that really helped us on the court. We were able to obviously make a pretty good run in conference. I think we finished tied for 3rd place, 1 loss away from being first. And we just really were able to played together this year, I think, more. Do you think the same, Luke?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, we won our first round playoff game against Appleton North, and we just got knocked out of the playoffs the other night, Saturday, against Eau Claire North, to a really good Eau Claire North squad. But I think that we all gained a lot from this season. Like I said, I really think that a big part of it was the relationships that I was able to build over the course of the year. And, yeah.
Right. And I really like the recognition that you gave to your managers, Ben and Ryan.
Oh, of course, yeah. Sorry, I didn't talk about that more. But Ben and Ryan, they were able to actually get on the court with us this year, too, for senior night. They were able to play, fortunately, against Rice Lake. I think Ben had a couple three-pointers. Ryan had about a couple plays. He actually ended up on one of the main high school basketball coverages, Instagram and Twitter. So that was kind of cool to see those guys get some recognition for all the hard
I
work
saw that
they put
video.
in.
It was great.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really cool to be a part of, so grateful for that.
And if you'd hit just a couple more free throws, we'd be talking about sectionals, huh?
Yep.
All right. I won't rub it in. No, you guys had a great season. Do you have many coming back?
Excuse me?
We're always looking for perfection, you know. Do you have more? Do you have many? Are you losing many seniors?
Yeah, so we have 5 seniors that were graduating this year, many of whom were big parts of our team. Luke, I think you can speak more on the team for next year. What do you think we're going to be like?
I think we'll be good next year. We'll definitely be able to compete for a conference championship.
Okay.
We had such a good junior class this year. We have a lot of returners.
Great. That's great. And I'm just kidding. I'll watch for you guys practicing your free throws in the off season. All right. All right.
To do us like that.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Good luck.
Next is girls basketball.
Bring this down a little bit. I'm Emily Yuza.
I'm Sophia Jonas.
Audrey Hatfield.
And Lauren Stolzman.
So as we started the beginning of the season, as many of you know, we kind of had a little bit of a not so ideal start with the passing of one of our coaches. But that being said, we are still all really excited to get the season going because we all love each other and we really just want to play the game for one another and for Jerry. That being said, we did not have the start that we really wanted to. In our first 8 games, we went 500 with a couple of losses being to top caliber Minnesota teams, but we still wanted to do better than we did.
As our season went on, though, we kind of hit our stride around Christmas time, and we went on a 9-game win streak against big conference opponents like Chippewa Falls and Eau Claire Memorial, where we swept both of those teams, but we lost to River Falls, which ended that.
So during our regular season, we were 16-5, and both of our conference losses were to River Falls, so we were 10-2 in the BRC, which was second place. And then once the playoffs came around, we were the 4 seed, and unfortunately we lost to Stevens Point in overtime, and that was the end of our season.
And overall, we had an awesome group of girls that got along really well this year, and it really showed on the court, especially when we were on our 9-game winning streak. And we're sad the season had to end as soon as it did because we had such great team chemistry.
And I see that Audrey and Sophia both got first team all conference. And I'm sorry I didn't catch your names, so it's
Audrey.
okay. All right. So our middle two there, presenters. All right. Excellent job. Great season. No comment on free throws. All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Hi, I'm Izzy Hughes. Again.
I'm Abigail Lingenfelter. I'm Claire Lingenfelter.
And we're representatives of the cheer and stunt team. I don't know where to start.
So at the beginning of the year, our first competition was our 10,000 Lakes regional competition, where we had to attend a camp back in June to participate in this, where we won first place in our division and then won a bid to nationals. And from there, we went on to competing at the U of M, and we won first place, and then at the Edina Sweetheart Classic. Also got first place there. And then we went to Brookfield and got first again. And then throughout all of that, we also cheered on the basketball teams, boys and girls. And yeah.
A week after Brookfield, we went down to Florida and we competed at the National High School Cheerleading Championship, and it went really well for our first year. We had a very difficult division, and I think we did super awesome. It was one of our best performances. And then after nationals, we had our team got a little rocky. We had a couple of incidents, and we had to compete all girl at state, but we did really well, actually. We had to compete in the co-ed division with no boys, and we got 6th place. We made it to finals, and we got 6th place. And along with that, at state, our all-girl stunt group, so that was Abigail, me, and then as well as Abby Janicki and Madison Tannhauser, we placed first. And Lane Burke and we made the all-state team as well. So that was something. But I'm really proud of everything that we did this season. I think the most important part was everybody came together when things got tough, and I think that allowed us to do so well at state.
This year we also got a new coach. She was our side coach. Her name was Cheryl Cheryl Militano.
We call her Cheryl.
But we just got really close. We all became a family, and we got super close to the coaches, and when we went on our trip to Florida, it bonded us a lot. So yeah.
Thank you so much for listening.
Well, when do you find out whether you qualify for nationals again?
That was back in November. That was the first weekend of November. So we competed at that competition, and we had a couple of months to prepare for nationals, fundraise, all that fun stuff. Okay. But yeah, it was really fun.
Again, congratulations on your success, and you should at least take partial credit for the girls and boys basketball team you cheered on. All right, yeah. You could be responsible for that 9-game winning streak. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Following cheer and stunt is gymnastics.
Hi, I'm Amber. I'm a junior.
I'm Emily. I'm a freshman.
And we are 2 of the 5 gymnasts for the Hudson gymnastics team. So, over the summer, both of our coaches quit to new job opportunities. Almost all of our team quit. We had 15 girls last year, and 4 came back, plus Emily. And then the Hudson Gymnastics, which is where we practice, closed. So we were kind of left with nothing, and we didn't know how it was going to go. And then we had a few injuries. Another junior had a surgery on her knee, and I got a bone bruise, so we were both out for a while. But besides all that, we still got really close because we were all going through those challenges, and it just helped us bond a lot.
Yeah, and for those who don't know much about gymnastics, you need 4 scores from each event to add up to a team score. And since most of the season we only had 3 gymnasts scoring, it turned into more of an individual sport at this point. But we still had fun as a team, and we made a lot of memories together, which I don't think it would have been the same if we'd had a full team. And we had a lot of individual accomplishments throughout the season, even though it was a lot harder on us to do well as a team.
And from being undefeated last year until state to this year, we tried to avoid looking at our team scores because I didn't really justify how we were doing individually. We still won our first meet when we all were competing out of about 10 teams, and we were proud to get second to last in conference against a team that had a full team. So, yeah. Thank you.
Well, congratulations on overcoming adversity. You had your share of it, that's for sure.
Thank you.
Next is boys hockey.
Hi, my name is Colton Prater. I'm a senior at Hudson High School. I was an assistant captain, and I play defense.
I'm Shane Benshoff, and I'm the team manager.
I'm Hunter Danielson. I'm a junior at Hudson High School. I played right wing, and I was also an assistant captain.
So we're going to get into the season recap here. So this year we had a first-year coaching staff. Our coach is right back there, Jake Juriski. And then we were 4-3 in our first 7 games. And then speaking from previous years, we were obviously a pretty good team with back-to-back state championships, and then making another state appearance last year. And then we rattled off 15 wins in a row after that. We finished first in conference with a 10-2 record. Overall, we were 21-6. And then we won the Herb Brooks Holiday Classic tournament, which is a Minnesota tournament, which you have to face a lot of adversity going over there as a Wisconsin team, getting looked down upon with, Minnesota players, coaches, teams just kind of look at Wisconsin hockey as being at a lower level. And then we were voted as the #1 seed in Section 1, which had 5 of the state's top 12 teams. We had a conference sectional player of the year, sectional conference coach of the year, and we hope to have 2 players named to the all-state team. We made it to the quarterfinals of the state playoffs. Off the ice, we did a ton of volunteer things as a team. A lot of parents jumped in and helped, but we did Feed My Starving Children, chicken and corn feed, made blankets for the homeless, raised $5,400 for the Rhinos Cancer Foundation, learned to skate for the handicapped, and learned to skate for the mites who are ages 4 through 7 years old. I would say my favorite memory was just creating such a good bond with all the guys on the team, which I think translated from off the ice onto the ice. We had an insane amount of team chemistry, and I think that's why we really got our stuff together and got going towards the middle of the season. And then just speaking as a senior going out this year, hockey is my secondary sport as I'm going on to play college soccer. I've learned a tremendous amount about myself, from the coaches, from teammates, about being a leader, and just being a better person off the ice.
All right. Well, thank you for your presentation. And I was going to say thanks for mentioning your service to the community. I think that's something that you can attribute to your team chemistry. And finally, thanks for showing up Minnesota then at that tournament. All right.
Absolutely. And you guys want to share? You good? Yes, sir. You're good. All right. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Girls hockey is not here to say something today, so but they ended their season well last weekend at state, and Raiders is also not here, and they ended their season as state champions and also went to nationals in Florida. So next up is boys swim.
Hi, my name's Alex Weaver. You guys might recognize me. I was here a little while ago about the HVAC and the ventilation issues at the pool. That was like a year ago. And so I want to start off by talking about how grateful we are that you guys decided to pursue those issues. So first, for the coaches and spectators, the pool room is now at a comfortable temperature. There's also virtually no coughing anymore from us, which really improves the quality of our workouts and ability to compete when hosting home meets. Second is the filtration system. There's a little UV, you guys probably saw the UV filtration system that got fitted on a pipe, and it knocks out, I think we've reduced the chlorine by 60% in the pool. That's really good for our hair and our skin, so we really appreciate that. And then lastly, our divers are slipping less as a result of the new boards. We have a lot less injuries this season, and we sent all 3 of our varsity divers to state. So I'm not saying that it contributed, but it definitely did, because we hosted sectionals, so we really appreciate that. Our team is also really blessed with an amazing coaching staff this year. Head coach Gary Asmus stepped in when we could not fill the position. He actually came out of a recent retirement, so it was really, really nice of him to help us out in that way. His expertise in leadership, along with that of our wonderful assistant coaches, really helped us achieve incredible time drops and runner-up finishes in our conference. However, though, I might say that the team has, over the past few years, been in a bit of a bind when trying to find quality coaching. Like coaches Gary, Kurt Becker, Ashley Downing, which were our coaches this year, and Ross Campbell, who just stepped down, they've all been facing a lot of pressure from, some of them are teachers, some of them, like Coach Gary, are not teachers, as well as Kurt. Since 2014, the program has not had a returning assistant coach, and Coach Ross, an incredibly humble and hardworking guy, had to step down because he was overstretched after being pushed too hard to head coach both the boys and the girls teams. So he was a bit stressed there. From my interactions with the changing coaching staff these past 4 years, I've come to understand that the duties of being both a teacher and a coach are increasing, and that's spreading the coaches a little too thin. They're not motivated by the money or the recognition, but when they can't get the support from their administration, they can't really justify the time commitment. So in the search for a head coach this previous summer, there were 8 employees of the district who I personally know how to have swimming experience. 4 have previously coached. 2 are currently coaching, which are coaches Ashley and Julia, one for the girls swim program, one for the boys, and 2 have never participated in the swim and dive programs. So despite this abundance of candidates, we weren't able to find anybody in the district who was willing to head coach. So this isn't really a program that's endemic to swimming. Outside of swimming, only 4 head coaches for the high school sports teams have returned over the past 6 years. So like there's a new boys hockey coach, there's a new swim coach, and I know this is a problem with a couple of the programs. So we have incredible teachers that are also talented coaches, and giving them the flexibility and the support they need is critical to the excellence of our athletic programs. So on a positive note, the swim and dive program as a whole has been growing in size and quality over these past 6 years. It's ballooned from a group of about 12 swimmers to a group of about 40. So we've had really excellent coaching leadership. Some of my favorite memories of high school would be the swim team. One was the first time we beat Eau Claire in 37 years in a duel. So, I mean, that was pretty insane. We got to throw the coaches in the pool when we won sectionals and conference. So that was awesome. But more important to me are the lessons I've learned and the friendships I've formed. I've had some incredible teammates and some incredible coaches, and I've learned to hold myself to standards of effort and excellence that will stick with me for a long time. So my experience with the boys swim and dive team has been really impactful. Thank you again for your time and work in upgrading our facilities, and I hope that the school district can work to attract and retain the quality of coaching leadership that we've enjoyed for the past 6 years.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for your report.
Yeah.
The last sport today is wrestling.
My name is Jacob Hansen. I'm a sophomore.
I'm Peter Hansen. I'm a junior. I'm Hank Gerke, and I am also a junior.
And I'm Leo Draveling, and I'm a senior. As many of you know, we had a tremendous wrestling season. The truth is we always have a great wrestling season, as we're one of the top programs in Wisconsin. This year we were conference champs, regional champs, sectional champs, and we advanced to team state for the 5th time this decade. Although many consider wrestling an individual sport, we don't. Team state's always our goal, and this year we were able to go after we beat DC Everest. Both Peter and I are now 2-time individual state qualifiers, and Jacob and Hank are 1-time, and they'll be returning next year. And then getting to wrestle in the Cole Center 1 week and the field house the next week was a dream come true.
We recognize that these accomplishments could not have been reached alone. We are very thankful to all the people who have had a hand in providing us this opportunity. Everyone from the school board to the high school administration and the athletic director on down to our bus drivers and the Hudson Wrestling Club and many more. Mostly, though, we want to say thank you to our parents and coaches. Their generosity and guidance is the key to our success. On behalf of the high school wrestling team, thank you for giving us this time to speak.
All right. Thank you, boys. Your appreciation is appreciated. All right.
So I just want to take a second, thank all the athletes for coming today. I also want to touch some of my fellow coaches that I know relatively well are also here today. And I just want to thank them for all the time and the energy that you guys put in whether it's through practices, games, personal, sacrifices, whatever it may be. I know what that's like. So I just want to thank the coaches. We have a phenomenal group of coaches in this district. And I've gotten to know some of them through the different Raider Elite things that we do, and they're just extremely dedicated and care about their kids quite a bit. So I just wanted to say that, and I want to say thank you to the board for having us here tonight to help recognize our winter sports.
Thank you. Did a great job standing in for her. All right, that completes our recognitions. Is there any request to speak? I don't see any. And before our superintendent speaks, if there's anybody that needs to leave to go someplace, you're welcome to leave. Although you might want to hear his report because it's going to be great. It's going to be really, really great.
I'll be working on my report like those free throws. You know. Before you get sucked in. All right.
Why don't we start with something that came up just like an hour before the meeting, and that was the email we got regarding National School Board Convention.
Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. So there was an email that came from the National School Board Convention. We do have 5 board members that are planning on attending the convention. They are offering the ability to not go and get a full refund, but you have to let them know in the next
Less than 48 hours.
Less than 48 hours. Is anyone at this point wanting not to go or change their plans? Otherwise, we'll continue down that path.
All right. Hearing none, I guess we've got solidarity that we are willing to incur the risk, I guess.
All right, so just wanted to touch on that. So my reports, basically I have 2 reports. They both revolve around our work with Studer. Gail is here with us tonight, and she's going to be coming up and joining us at the table. But I'll talk a little bit about our training. You can come on up, Gail. And this is the second time that Gail's been with the board, but we had an opportunity to take part of the team out to a training destination, High Performance, and really kind of work at what those leadership strategies are that help engage employees and that continuous improvement model. And then today, Gail was with our whole team, our whole leadership team, working on finalizing the draft of the strategic plan, working on some different kind of nomenclature as we work through how we're going to roll things out. And then in addition, we'll talk a little bit about our employee rounding that we've been doing. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Gail because she has a slide deck she'll be going through. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Yes, please. Yeah, because we're being recorded. So.
Okay. I think you'll probably recognize this slide from October. It's the strategy in which we use to capture information that rises to the top and becomes the strategic plan ultimately. Next slide, please. This is a summary, a refresh to indicate how deep and wide the work has traveled across the last several months. On 2 days in the fall, I led focus groups. There were 20 of them, and I had the chance to hear from over 150 members of the teaching staff, of the administration, of operations, parents, students, community stakeholders around a couple of questions. What's going well for the district? What are areas needing improvement? And what should the future look like as compared with the documents according to the district scorecard, the HSD 2025 document, and anything else relevant that Hudson Lead brought to my attention. So those were the items that were brought front and center in creating this version of the strategic plan. Next slide, please. Today, was revision number 5, and we believe that it is as close to final as Hudson Lead can arrive at without input from you all on what might be missing, on what looks great, and does this represent a document in which we are going to focus on the things that matter most and then measure those things in a specifically aligned way via the scorecard, which I'll talk about in just a second. But this is the finalized strategic plan as per Hudson Lead's 5 times of reviewing the document, in which the goals are landed on around students, the team, which is anyone employed in HSD, intentionally included with language of team, and community, which is the local community, local stakeholders, parents, families, so on and so forth. So I'm not sure that you're able to review the individual points of this document. However, this is the space and time in which, in the way that works best for you, we are asking for your input in order to move this document to final form.
And so what'll happen is you have a copy of it now, and then probably at the next work session, we'll spend some time going over it, which is in about 2 weeks, and then you'll be able to really dig in, ask questions about it, and see how it all ties back. But we wanted to at least get this to you, and you can kind of see what has the process been, and what have we been up to since we started down this charge back in September.
Thank you.
And, yeah, just to clarify, that'd be March 30, I think is our next work session.
Yep.
So, all right. And that's the time that we could get in depth and
Yep.
asking some questions on this. But Sue, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I just had a question actually. We have time to look at this, and if we have questions and comments, do we send them to you, to the superintendent, or?
You
I always
can send them to me.
Send them to you?
Yep.
Okay, so you have some idea of
Yep.
our questions ahead of time.
Absolutely.
Sure. And
Yep.
I am glad to be involved at the level that's considered appropriate and useful along the way. I hope that you'll notice and recognize the complicated, intense work of the leaders in reducing a document that was probably 25 pages to a 1-pager in which what matters most and what impacts the future most has been organized into very distinct bullets in which goals can be established, were established, and will be measured over time. That's the point. Next slide, please.
Mr. President?
Rob, do you have a question?
A quick question. Can you remind us what's the makeup of Hudson Leads, this group?
Hudson Lead is representative of our building principals, cabinet team, all of our assistant directors, assistant principals, deans of students.
38 individuals?
Yeah, there's 38 individuals in that group.
But they're all employees of the district?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. President, quick question before
Yes.
we move on, and maybe we've already seen it. Is there and can we see, or maybe we've seen, a high-level summary, not 28 pages of feedback, but a high-level summary of what we learned from those 20 focus groups? Is that something that's shareable?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Correct. And specifically, there is that document, and it does exist already, so
Yep, I can get it to
certainly
you.
available for your review and for your information. So the way that the model works, the continuous improvement model in which I lead as your coach, is that once the strategic plan is established, in which we know the important things that we want to impact and move toward for the future, then that work becomes operationalized via what we refer to, and by we I mean Studer Education, as the scorecard. So part of our work today was first unraveling language and then arriving at common language to drive the future in terms of tools that exist and aligning them with the work. So as far as this work goes that I'm about to talk about, this is going to be what we refer to as the scorecard action plan. And the scorecard action plan is going to be the living, agile document that reflects the goals of the strategic plan, but the district and school scorecards will continue to exist. And if you think about that in terms of the level, I believe it's, well, you don't have to switch to the next slide. If we think about levels of how alignment works, so strategic plan, the major objectives, then district and building scorecard are those lagging measures, those measures that we can arrive at once a year. And the Studer scorecard, which is now going to be referred to as the scorecard action plan by Hudson leaders, is going to be the work that's interval-based, in which action is taken in order to arrive at those annual goals on the district scorecard and the building scorecard. So the work cascades very neatly and in a way that we hope will be understood and communicated clearly as strategic plan to district goals to scorecard action planning tool, in which at every meeting, whether it be monthly or whatever interval works for the leaders, this document, the scorecard action plan, which was the document that Tim had up before, will be front and center in terms of the right side of this page. I'm not sure if you can get there, Tim. I believe we said in which strategic actions toward goals are monitored, measured, adjusted over the period of time, which may be monthly, in which it'll certainly be every 3 months in which I am here. And that hopefully gets at actions that arrive at the annual goal outcomes. Does that make sense? Okay. So if Tim, if you will scroll back to the front of that scorecard for just a moment. I'm not sure that it's so clear to you, but the green areas are the pillar areas. So maybe you figured this out already. Our students and then our people and then our community. And what's been populated under those are the district goals as established last year. Will be updated this year when those goals are reestablished. And today our work was according to your department or your respective area in which you can own some action that gets at the goal. What are those things? That's referred to as keeping the foot on the gas pedal, and that's how we accomplish success more thoroughly and in ways that can be measured via the work I'm doing.
So you basically took the 5 pillars of focus that administration and the board agreed on, reorganized them based on students, our staff, and the community. And so I see there's 3 pillars alone just for our students, and then organized it based on those. And is the intent then to have basically these same goals, so we have year-over-year comparison during that 5-year plan? Okay. So that's we're not reinventing the wheel every year and moving the goalposts or anything like that.
Now, are you talking goals, or so what you see down where it says the annual goal? Those are our district goals. So those are the goals that you approved back in October, and remember they fall into each of the 5 areas. So they've been kind of reassigned to the 3 areas. You know, those annual goals could change based on how we're doing and based on the results we're getting. But the 3 pillars, focus areas, stay constant for for the 5-year length of the strategic plan.
Correct.
That was my understanding. I don't know if our board members have different understandings or questions at this point, but.
I think I do.
Okay.
If I may. And so, if I understand what you've said, you had roughly 150 people participate in a voice of district, if you will.
Correct.
Several sessions, collected all those voices.
Correct.
And then this leadership group, this group of 38, who's made up of district leadership at
Correct.
varying levels, basically boiled all of that down to this.
Correct.
Okay. So, and again, I'm just sort of catching up as we're moving along. Should, in that group of 38, should there have been community members or students or, you know what I mean, in lieu of just district leadership? Should this have been a more broad group? And again, I don't do what you do, I'm just more curious.
Right. So it is critical to have the voice of all stakeholders in the strategic planning work, but the scorecard action plan work is typically the purview of the leaders of the schools in terms of actions they can own to get at academic outcomes and engagement outcomes. In terms of those that relate to the community, if you'll notice, it's down to, we actually moved the top one up, and I haven't had a chance to revise the slide yet, but the work in terms of the scorecard work is generally by the school leaders.
So you see the difference. There was 150 people involved in the strategic planning initially, and then the organizing into a scorecard is done by leadership.
So
Correct.
150 people were voices that were captured.
Mhm.
And then the
Right.
group of 38 diced and sliced and.
Correct.
Yeah, and really what happened is after Gail did the focus groups, then she looked for theme analysis, basically did theme analysis from all the different groups, and then shared with us that document that Heather was requesting. And so then that document is basically shared with Hudson Lead, and then we worked to try to actually put it into something that's a working document, something we can do. And then from that, which is that one-page kind of strategic plan for the next 5 years, from there, then it's, okay, we have these different bullets on the strategic plan, so now what? What it's the so what, so what do we do with them? And that's also then where Hudson Lead takes over and says, okay, here's our plan of attack of how we're going to address some of these different things. What we did for this year, we kind of have a foot in both worlds. We kind of have a foot in the old world and kind of a foot in the new world. And so we're trying to meld two at least for a year or so, and then eventually move into a much more fluid process.
So the common theme assessment, was that done by Studer, or was that done by the district?
It was done by
The
Studer.
assessment of themes from the focus groups was performed by me. I did that work, yes. And, tangential but important to that question, I think, is using the information we gain over time, so the strategic plan, the themes from the focus groups, whatever the case may be, as a communication tool. So I think one responsibility that we all have to the future is communicating what has been done with the work. So the focus groups led to the strategic plan. It's important to get that message back out of your voice mattered as a student, your voice mattered as a teacher, or as a community stakeholder. So those are the ways in which I think communication of how it helped can be delivered and cascaded by the board and by others who have an interest in continuing the message and the outcomes. Okay, next slide, please, Tim. In summary, the strategic plan leads to the scorecard action plan. And the scorecard action plan is keeping the foot on the gas pedal of the district scorecard and the building scorecard in intervals, so action is constantly happening, being revised, getting at the impact that we want. That's what we worked on today. That's what we've been working on for months together. In addition to the strategy piece is the culture piece. And Hudson School District leaders have invested in a tactic called leader rounding. Leader rounding is getting to know what is top of mind for employees in such a way that you can do two things. You can resolve quick issues, arrive at resolutions for individuals in ways that are reasonable and specific, but you can also gather and should gather themes that surface from these conversations and rounding and identify what is thematic and the prioritization of getting those things done if reasonable and possible. So that's one piece. It's harvesting the quick wins that lead to further engagement by leading people to believe that they're being heard and what makes a difference to their day-to-day work environment is being addressed in successful ways. The other part is reward and recognition. So what gets rewarded gets repeated is the standpoint there. But there's also the reality that we can't affect the bottom line in terms of great pay increases, let's say. But reward and recognition matters to how people feel about how much they're contributing to their work and what they're doing on a day-to-day basis that looks right, that is what's right. So again, the way that it works is leaders are asking individuals, next slide, Tim, 4 questions in a specific way. This comes from the healthcare industry of rounding, how are you feeling today? On a scale of 1 to 10, how's your pain? It comes from that temperature check in healthcare settings, transferred to education setting. It's 4 questions, intentionally 5 minutes. If it's beyond that, then it belongs to a larger conversation. But this is the protocol, 4 questions: what's working well? What ideas do you have for improvement? What resources do you need to do your job? That's the harvesting small, quick wins. And is there anyone who's been especially helpful to you lately? Done well, executed with fidelity, leader rounding has the greatest impact on moving employee engagement scores over time. Leader rounding does. But if it's initiated and then lessened and then increased and it's unclear, then it's potentially devastating. I would like to share that Hudson Lead has invested in and will be continuing leader rounding over time. And we talked about that today. So wanted to give you some information about the why, the what, and the how of leader rounding.
Mr. President?
Sue.
I just want to, so what I like about this model is it's not about telling, it's about listening.
Yes.
And that is a learned skill.
Yes. Thank you, Sue. Appreciate the feedback. So leader rounding does have a deeper dive, and it's I can tell you as much or as little as you need to know for the context of this conversation, but we ask leaders to capture themes, to report those out in a certain way at intervals with their staff in ways in which they acknowledge themes that have risen to the top that need some sort of resolution, and in which manage-ups or reward and recognition happen for those individuals who've been rewarded and recognized in leader rounding sessions. And then twice a year, the leader rounding outcomes will be announced at January all staff for that second half of year, or for that first half of year, excuse me, and then at welcome back for the second half of year. So those are the two standard places in which the larger outcomes and report outs will happen around leader rounding. Next slide. This is for your reference information. And I appreciate the chance to share an update about the work. Very successful, productive meeting today, and really very successful, productive meetings every time, so appreciate it.
Well, thank you for your work. It looks like there's been a lot of progress made since October. Thank you. Is there any other comments or questions from boards?
Nick, would it be possible to get a copy of the presentation shared with the board?
It's attached to the agenda.
It is now. Okay.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I'm sorry, when there are common themes, how do those get addressed?
From the leader rounding?
Yes.
So from the common themes, we talked about that today, so I appreciate the question. If it's at an individual level, so those are, so for example, I need an update to a computer program. That's an individual win that doesn't need reporting out as a theme. But assuming that over a 3-month period, you've heard from multiple team members that they would need a program to do their job more effectively, then one space in which it makes sense to talk about those themes is in some type of staff meeting environment. And it's along the lines of, I would like to thank you for participating in leader rounding. I want you to know that these are a couple of themes that have risen to the top. And in terms of those themes, here's the way I as a leader am prioritizing making those happen by way of what's reasonable and what surfaced as most important, and then providing some update over time of what's being resolved and how. And a meeting is simply one example. There may be other spaces in which it could be appropriate to report out what's happening and what's being resolved by leader rounding.
Mr. President?
Yes, Heather.
I think another important thing to point out, the recognition piece of this, so having had the opportunity to be a part of this in a healthcare environment, even there, the roll-up that happens where, in a healthcare environment, there would be times when we'd hear from 3 or 4 different nurses about one environmental services aide who was exceptional with patients. Mm-hmm. And because that name rolled up, then you'd actually have like the hospital president go and seek out that environmental services aide to say, I just want to say thank you. We've been hearing great things about you. So so it's not just that that one-on-one. It's the ability to really let some of those folks bubble to the top who are doing exceptional but often unnoticed work. And I think that's a real strength of this process of documentation and looking for themes, because it can bring great recognition to folks who deserve it but don't always get it. Yeah.
And we talked about that today quite extensively, as to what that process would look like so that it would roll up to me or potentially to the board to be able to give that type of recognition, especially if principals or other leaders in the district are consistently hearing, when they're rounding with people, wow, this individual is really hitting it out of the park to make my life easier, going out of their way to help me. How do we kick that up so that it raises to a level beyond just, hey, I want to follow up with a thank you for a direct supervisor, but more, it just keeps working its way up. And so all of those things. So we just, like I said, we've just started the rounding process. We, committed to rounding with about two folks a month, 2 direct reports a month with each of the people in the district. And some people would say, well, gosh, that doesn't seem like very many. But, at 38 people in Hudson Lead, that gets us 76 a month. And when you start to think about that over 9 months, we get pretty close to starting to get our entire staff rounded with. And so we also wanted to set it so that, and we talked about this as a team today, that it wasn't like we didn't want it to become another thing, like an add-on, like I'm dreading this because I got to get 15 people rounded with this month. We wanted it to be something that people really look forward to and have this conversation. We are finding that people are going beyond the 2. We just set the minimum at 2. But even some of the folks had said, everybody from buildings and grounds to several of the principals said, I have people coming up and asking when I'm going to round with them.
That's true.
And so we really are, the employee engagement piece is a big piece about what we're trying to do here, to try to understand, what is it that we can do to continue to be a better workplace. And that's what my listening sessions have been doing as well, trying to listen, trying to hear feedback. And then when I hear themes, when I start to hear multiple people kind of focusing on the same thing, that's when I come back, talk to the different directors and things like that, or the principals, and say, hey, here's something that's coming up. You might want to look into this, or this is something that it's starting to boil. But this is a much more prescribed way to round with a lot of people. So,
Excellent.
yeah.
Just so we understand, then board will have some input at the next work session. The
Mhm.
strategic plan will be finally adopted. You'll be engaging on a quarterly basis over those next 4 years. And then would we see you on an annual basis likely, or?
So what we try to do is, so Gail comes for the whole day, so she's here for the whole day, and so been trying to look at when we schedule her time. So if she's here all day Monday, we try to schedule it on days that we have board meetings. So then it just kind of works in. So like twice a year, you kind of know what's going
Okay.
on.
That's
type
why I was
thing.
just trying to
Yep.
figure out semi-annual, annual, whatever. But that, I really like this work and this model. Having come from the private sector, and we've done strategic plans as a firm, and you end up losing traction when they don't get specifically assigned and you don't come up with a how it's going to be accomplished. And this is something that's very specific and goal-oriented, something that can be measured. So thank you for your work.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Okay, have a great night.
All right.
Sunset. Yeah.
Thanks for your work. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Gail.
All right. Does that conclude the superintendent report?
It does.
All right. Moving on, we have a couple reports, and it looks like we're getting an ELA update. We've had them at the middle school and the elementary school level. Now we're looking at the high school.
Yes, we are. Thank you very much. So we're inviting Susie Anderson up, curriculum specialist at the high school. And tonight, as you said, we'll be sharing an update on English language arts at the high school. And this has been a focus area for us for quite a while. Actually, it set us up nicely. You could see on the scorecard, that was one of the data points that was highlighted. Looking to improve that, we have quite a bit of room for improvement in terms of proficiency rates at the high school with ELA, so we focused a lot of energy there. Susie's been doing an absolutely stellar job supporting the team. She works very hard at making sure the English teachers have clarity and the consistency and the understanding of what needs to be delivered. That's something we continually work on. We're going to do the report a little bit differently today. Typically, we end with data. So we go through, these are all the things that are happening, here's where we are in the process, and we end with data. We're flipping that today because it sort of blends nice with our scorecard work, and as I said, it's an area of focus. So we're going to start with the data, a little bit of comparative view of how, where that data sits, and then the rest of the presentation that Susie will share really is a summary of the main points and the support we have in place to improve that data. Ultimately, we want to make sure that we increase the number of students that demonstrate proficiency in ELA on ACT in 11th grade. With that, I'll turn it to Susie.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Good evening. I appreciate you allowing me to be here today and just share a little bit about what we've been doing in ELA and where we're at. So currently we are at phase 5 of the curriculum improvement process, and we have coaches and teachers working together, kind of exploring what's working well in our curriculum and ways and areas that we could improve in. Next year we will continue to examine best practices, and then the following year we will begin over in phase 1 where we're going to take a look again at our standards work. So I linked on this slide a copy of the new draft of English standards. As you can see, it's broken into 4 different categories: reading, writing, speaking and listening, language. And there previously were 42 standards, and now there are 29 standards in the new draft. One of the biggest changes is that they've merged the literature and the informational reading standards into just reading standards, so instead of having separate ones. I think most English teachers are going to like that, and it will make the standards a little bit more manageable. The committee who's been working on the standards, they're currently getting feedback from teachers, so there could be some adjustments made to this draft. So we'll have to keep you updated on that. This slide is just a reminder of our course offerings in ELA at the high school and our different pathways. You might notice that there's an intentional lack of choice in 9th and 10th grade. That is done on purpose so that we can make sure that all of our students gain the foundational skills that they need in ELA before they get to their junior and senior year, where they have a lot more choices of electives that they could take. When they get to choose some of the electives in the upper grades, then it provides another opportunity for them to master the English standards, but to do it in a content that maybe they're a little bit more excited about or that they really feel engaged in. And so as we move forward in the ELA curriculum improvement process, we're also going to be possibly looking to expand some of our elective options for those upper level classes. So here's some data from the ACT. The high school is our primary area of concern. We have considerable room for improvement. And as Dave was saying, the rest of the presentation is going to focus on some ways that we can improve in the ELA area. So currently our trend in reading is increasing slightly while the other areas of ELA are slightly declining. According to the 2018-2019 ACT data, the state average is at 38% of students proficient or advanced. In Hudson, we are currently at 47% of students proficient or advanced in ELA, and our vision would be to be at 68% proficient or advanced, because that would mean as a district we were functioning at the 95th percentile. We know there's a lot of room for growth, and so we are putting pieces into place to make that happen. One of the things that we're doing is implementing a more balanced assessment model. So prior to this year, PLCs gained insight about where students were and what work needed to be done by looking at their common formatives and their common summatives that they were giving students in their classes. But this year, the PLC has implemented interim assessments, and this has created a more balanced approach in determining student proficiency for stakeholders at all levels. Moving forward, the English department wants to modify the interim assessments to focus solely on reading. I've bolded ACT on this slide because that is the tool that we use to measure the systemic progress. In the past, we always had to wait for the ACT data to see where we were at, but now that we have a more balanced assessment plan, that allows us to make instructional adjustments during the year. So, for our interim assessments, we are currently using the Inspect assessments in Illuminate. These are standards aligned assessments that will help predict achievement results, and they'll also help guide instruction by letting teachers know specifically where students are struggling. One report that we found extremely useful is the frequency response report. Teachers are able to look at this bar graph, and they can quickly see which questions students struggled with the most and which ones they were able to answer correctly. On the bottom of the chart, you can also see the amount of students who answered different responses. The teacher can click on those numbers on the bottom, and then they can also see exactly which students answered it correctly or incorrectly. And then they can use that information to either group students or for reteaching specific skills with the students who need it. So the other thing that they've done in 9th, 10th, and 11th grade is that they have aligned their SLO goal for the year. In each PLC, they've aligned it directly to the interim assessments. So that's kind of feels like it's something that's working with what we're already doing instead of something additional. And so the addition of these interim assessments has really helped teachers. It's helped them adjust their day-to-day plans, reach their end-of-the-year goals, make sure that as a department they're increasing the amount of students who are proficient and advanced in ELA. This is a unique feature of these tests, they offer rationales for why students may have chosen an incorrect answer. And it kind of helps you get at maybe what the misunderstanding was with why a student selected an incorrect answer. So this was one where the students are asked to pick the best answer. And then down on the bottom, you can see the C was the correct answer, but then it gives a rationale for all of the incorrect answers, maybe what they were thinking. There's another example of that. This one would be tied to one of the language standards, and this is an example that focuses on parallel structure. So just to give you an idea of maybe what one of the other questions might ask. And then the last report from these interim assessments in Illuminate that I wanted to share is this pivot table. This report allows teachers to look at a pre-assessment. You can see I was like, I can't remember if the pre is, the pre is on the bottom, and the post is on the left side. And then the diagonal line across the middle, so the yellow line, that would be how many students scored that the first time they took the test and then scored it again the second time. And then anything above that would be students who improved their grade, and then anything below that would be students who scored higher before and then actually dropped in their score. And again, these reports are interactive, so you could click on that 2 on the bottom and it would tell you which 2 students were in that group. So had previously scored higher, but for some reason dropped in there. As you can see, teachers have a lot of information in their hands quickly and efficiently, which allows them to determine where their class is at, where their students are at, and really how to proceed as a result of that data. Because teachers are focused on improving students' reading skills, they are implementing more reading strategies. So they have a variety of strategies to apply to future reading, making sure that students are clear about the purpose of their reading and giving them structures for them to be actively engaged as they read, and then also giving them reading strategies or having them annotate while they're reading. Those are all extremely important strategies that we can give to students, and if we're able to kind of fill up their tool belt with different strategies that they can use, we know that that will help them be more proficient readers. So. And then just a little bit about some things that are new in ELA. So last year we added AP Seminar, and this year we added AP Research to our English selections. Our other 2 AP options focus on text analysis, argumentation, and synthesis of ideas. AP Capstone adds the element of individual inquiry and investigation. So AP Seminar, that's offered their junior year, focuses on building a body of knowledge around a timely and relevant topic. It focuses on credibility, argumentation, and powerful communication. And then this course scaffolds into AP Research, where students begin by examining a body of knowledge, and then through that they establish a gap in the existing research, and then they design and implement their own research. They analyze their data, draw conclusions, establish implications, and acknowledge limitations. And they finish the program with a 5,000-word academic paper and a 20-minute presentation and oral defense of their work. So these are kind of 2 additional classes to our ELA selection, and they kind of provide a different avenue for AP credit in ELA that's different than the other options that we have for AP. We are also excited to share that we now have a writing center, a high school writing center. It opened on March 2nd, located in the LRC. I stopped up there one day. I thought I would take a picture of the space, and I went in there, and there just happened to be a writing conference going on, so that was kind of fun. This is a place for students who are looking for writing assistance across curriculum areas, not just in ELA. It is staffed by a trained team of students, and that team of students is led by a committee of teachers. The student coaches were nominated by their teachers in all kinds of academic areas for their performance in writing. And the coaches are specifically trained to ask questions to help their peers draw their own conclusions rather than simply editing or fixing their work. There's a little video that's linked in there if you want to watch it that was sent out to all the advisories so students were aware that we had added this. We also have 7 sections of co-taught English at the high school. These classes have an English teacher as well as a special education teacher in the room. They plan, facilitate, and deliver the instruction together. The general education brings the content specialty, and the special education teacher brings the strategy specialty to the partnership. And this is just one of the ways we're trying to meet the diverse needs of our students. And then some professional development opportunities that are coming up that we also think could really be helpful with our ELA scores and our instruction in general. Earlier this year, a couple of our teachers attended a session at CISA 11. It was called Notice and Note, and it's strategies for close reading, and they were really excited about what they were hearing there. It's a research-based model to help us kind of sharpen our close reading strategies rather than just expecting our students to read closely and critically. And so as a department, the English department has decided to do a book study with this book. And the basic idea is that when students are reading, they see these signposts. When they see these specific signposts, they pause for a minute, they think about what they're there for and how they impact the overall work. Another benefit of this strategy is that it's also being used at the middle school, so it's a consistent strategy that can be applied. The kids coming into the high school are already kind of familiar with it, and so we can just make it more high school appropriate. And then also this summer, there's going to be a group of teachers from the high school and the middle school who will attend a 2-day reading and writing workshop facilitated by Kelly Gallagher. He's a very well-known teacher, author, and literary expert. I know some of our English teachers have been to conferences or heard him speak before or worked with him. And so we're really excited about that opportunity this summer for that 2-day conference. So thank you so much for allowing me to share this updated work with you. I just think whenever we have teachers like looking at data and working together and trying to do what's best for students, it's always a really exciting opportunity to be part of. So thank you very much.
Mr. President?
Mr. Pre-
Yes,
oh.
we got a couple of
Well-
people. Rob was first, so Rob.
He gave it to me the last time, so I'll give it to you.
Thank you, thank you. The peer counselors, peer helpers, are they only seniors, or what years are they?
Oh, do you mean in the Writing Center?
Yes.
I do not think they have to be just seniors. I'm not part of that committee, but.
Do they just volunteer?
They were recommended by
Recommended.
teachers. Yep,
Okay.
they were recommended by teachers, and then they've done like some training, but they'll continue to do ongoing training, so.
But they're volunteers, they're not forced to do this.
No, they're
Okay,
not.
good,
They're
good.
not.
All
There's
right.
clipboards in there, they've got their little sign up early. Option to detention.
Okay, did you have something?
Yeah,
to say?
I did. I'm kind of linking slide 14 with, I did read the DPI draft, and I found it really quite fascinating. So anyway, on slide 14, it says inclusion in ELA, co-teaching, et cetera. And then you used the word diversity, but when I looked up the National Inclusion Project and thinkinclusive.us, it was strictly about kids with disability, but you're thinking of this as a much more expansive term, inclusion.
Well, I just think whenever a lot of those things that we're putting into place, a lot of those strategies, a lot of things that we're doing in those classrooms are good for all students. So this is a way that we are being inclusive with all of our students in English. So,
So diversity, I'm just trying to kind of get a snapshot here. Greater than kids with disabilities, by diversity you mean like maybe ethnicity or race or all? I'm just trying to.
So if I could, I'll just
Yeah.
jump in there. And it's a very good question. One of the things that Susie pointed out was that 9th and 10th grade ELA was what we call detracked, meaning there aren't multiple pathways. That creates a very inclusive delivery model in that all kids will be in that class. The other way in ELA that we address issues of diversity would be in the selection of texts. So the books we read, the things we write about, and so forth. But yes, in terms of inclusivity and co-teaching is a strategy specific to serving students with disabilities in a general ed class in a highly supported way,
Okay.
but it is good for all students.
Okay, that helps. And then I just, in the DPI draft proposal for standards and so on, I thought this kind of goes along with slide 14. literacy enhanced by multiple perspectives, a rich diversity of texts, language use, viewpoints, and critical discussions are important for building knowledge in Wisconsin English language arts classrooms and exposure to different genres, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm glad to see that's like in big print on here because it just will provide a real strength to what we're trying to do here in Hudson.
I think that idea of like reading serving as windows and mirrors, that students need to see themselves reflected in the literature that we read, and they also need to see other people who might be in different situations that they're in, and so they can develop empathy for those people in different situations.
Because we're always looking for ourselves somewhere in there. Thank you.
I just heard recently they added a sliding door too, so you could kind of step into a different world too. So that was kind of I'd only heard windows and mirrors, but I like the slide door as well.
All right. Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, thank you for the report, and
thank you very much.
good luck with the plan.
Good night.
All right, we're moving on. We still have one more report. That would be the 30-day wellness staff challenge. Andrea?
That is me, and so I'm excited because it's not all the time that HR gets to have a super positive, fun opportunity, and so this is that. It really was. So what we did was we had trying to be responsive and looking at the scorecard information and some of the survey data with respect to wellness in particular, seeing this as an area that we needed to improve upon. We were trying to come up with some fun ideas. And where we landed with a kind of a subcommittee of Hudson Lead, we ended up with this My Virtual Mission app. We had almost 350, our first year, almost 350 staff members participated. It went from February 10th and it's ending tomorrow, so we don't have the final results yet. I know it's kind of suspenseful because it's really good prizes, but that'll be tomorrow that we announce that. And then what we did was we traveled on this My Virtual Mission app from San Francisco to Tijuana. About, not even, I think less than 20 teams made it to Tijuana. But again, tonight, there could be some massive running, like, no, we did not make it. Tijuana Brass was our team, and we did not make it. I tried, yeah, it wasn't pretty. So then we have different challenges and prizes each week. We want to make it fun. And so what you'll see in this document is we had a creative challenge and a physical challenge for each of the weeks. Oh, well, yeah, first I'll go to this next one. This is kind of a snapshot view. One of the points of the app is that at any point in time, you can look at where you are amongst the path from the path of San Francisco to Tijuana. Picked a couple fun ones with ocean. We thought that would be a good thing. And then you can see the weather conditions, all the type of information for that particular moment, which is certainly a benefit of the app. But then when we go through, what we found was we kept retention at a high level during the course because like the first week we had a sock challenge. So you can see they're all wearing our Hudson Raiders socks, which I know you guys have a pair as well. And that was one of the grand prize winners. We had about 22 entries each of the 3 weeks. And so you can just keep flipping through the pictures, Tim. And that was another winning picture where people were very creative about their socks and the use of the socks. And then the week 2 was oh yeah, this one's hard to, it's a video of Sound of Music, and they had sock puppets at the end. That, and then the school age care, we had certified staff, we had administrators, we had support staff, we just had a wide variety of participants, which I thought was mission accomplished from that perspective. I feel like it was a fun, positive event that lasted that month of February. This was doing the meme contest. So it was a meme or a boomerang was our contest last week for the creative challenge. This week is celebrating getting to Tijuana. But those results, again, are not yet determined, and we did make sure they were appropriate for school districts because Tijuana, probably would pick a different destination in the future. But I think it just shows, week after week, we had hundreds of people participating in these contests as well as the wellness event itself. Hopefully, we've been hearing positive things with respect to the utilization of the Raider Fitness Center as well. And so we're looking at how we can grow it from here. But just wanted to give you a little snapshot of the fun challenge that we had this past month.
Excellent. Thank you for that report, and there'll be no report from how the school board's team did. All right.
Don't think you made it to Tijuana.
No.
We have a couple participants, yes, that were, and I had the mission up here. You made some progress, yep. But I don't think you were well past San Francisco. There was, I think, a couple of people that were super awesome. But yeah, it's hard when a lot of the teams had like 5+ members. Our team even had 7 members, and we did not make it to Tijuana. I know, guys. Oh yeah, no, but it was. I think we'll continue with the feedback, continue on new missions next year. But the month of February is kind of a doldrums month, so it was
expected
nice.
to be February again next year.
I'm thinking it kind of hit at a good time, so probably so.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, with that, we'll move on to topics for discussion and action. First up is consent agenda. And you should have the wording of the motion that would include the expenditures.
Mr. President, I move approval of the consent items and that the Chief Financial and Operations Officer be authorized to pay bills in the amount of $3,165,323.13.
Second.
A motion a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. And Andrea, do we have any recognitions?
I do have, first of all, there's the retirements. So we have quite a few support staff retirements that are announced on that tab. So Jeff Busby, custodian, 17 years of service. We have Pamela Lalamont at nutrition services worker at 20 years. We have Patricia Johnson, also nutrition services, who's a lead, 15 years. Doreen Protz, a nutrition services worker, 16 years. And Candice Miller, nutrition services lead at Rivercrest, 27 years. And then Barb McMahon, a special ed para at Willow River with 23 years. And on top of that, we would also like to recognize the new principal, Mike Ballard, who's in the audience tonight, who
Please stand up.
Be the new high school principal starting this July.
So, Mike, if you want to just kind of introduce yourself a little bit. And
Well,
we can ask any
first of all,
questions.
I just want to say thanks. My name is Mike Ballard. I'm from New Richmond, where I've been there for the last 10 years. Super excited to have an opportunity to come to Hudson. And boy, what a great first board meeting to come to. I don't know if you saw the common theme from the counselors to all of the students, to the various people that presented, Susie and others, but I heard a lot of collaboration and relationship building and working together. And so I'm super excited to begin. I feel very fortunate to have started so early, in early March, so I'll have an opportunity to get over here and have an opportunity to work with Mogi a little bit. And I've already had a chance to meet with Dave and some other folks as well. But I'm really interested in meeting all of the staff. And so we're going to set some times aside and to begin meeting with staff as well.
All right. Any questions? Otherwise, a sincere welcome. And don't be deceived by this meeting. They're all not this great and exciting.
Oh, bummer.
Okay.
All right. Oh, that's not what I was told.
Sometimes we set speed records. Tonight's not one of them, but we go for quality, not necessarily quantity. No. So thanks for coming.
Yeah. So on a serious note though, thanks so much for the warm welcome. Everyone I've met has just been very, very welcoming, and I really appreciate it. So thanks so much.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Thanks for staying this long too. You didn't cut out with all the students. So, all right. Moving on with our action items then. These were all discussed at last week's work session. And so first up is the proposed health and dental rates and changes. And I assume, Tim, you're going to give us a little summary?
Sure. Yeah, nothing's changed since the last time you saw this, but this is the recommendation from the Health Insurance Work Group, and that was a unanimous recommendation to make these changes. So, but I won't go through the sheet because you've seen it last time, unless you've got questions.
Okay, but basically the motion should be termed adopting the recommendation with regard to how the plan is implemented with regard to deductibles and copays, and then as far as the monthly rates, and that would be no change to that, correct?
Right. Yeah, monthly rates will stay level from last year.
Okay. Any questions? Otherwise, I entertain a motion to approve the recommended changes to health and dental.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Move to approve the recommended changes.
All right. Motion by Carrie, second by Bob. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Next up would be the staffing plan. Andrea?
Yes, and so as I'll follow Tim's lead, and that we covered it at the board work session, a couple clarifying points that have changed based on the feedback that we received at the meeting. And some clarifications we received from buildings. For example, specifically line item 8, middle school, originally at the work session, we cited a reduction of 3 teachers. It's actually a 2.5 reduction. It is a reduction of a house, but there's some reallocation in terms of a math position. So it's not quite a full 3.0 FTE, and that those have been accomplished as part of retirements. They're all due to retirements.
Oh, okay, so no one's
being reduced. Exactly. So very important point. And over the last 2 years, so the 6th grade house went down last year. That's now rolling up into 7th grade based on enrollment, purely a function of enrollment when it comes to the middle school reductions. And then another clarifying piece, we put additional detail in line item 13, and that's the positions that Dave has been working through with the restructuring of his department and the posting and filling of the 2 new assistant director positions and the restructuring of the director level position. And then certainly emphasis throughout all this entire proposal, as we discussed before, is the additional counselors at the high school, 1.0 at the high school, counselor position 1.0 at the middle school for the counselor, and then maintaining the elementary counselor FTEs as well.
Couple things I want to just highlight in this report. Sometimes people ask, do we always add or do we ever reduce or where are the reductions? And I think Andrea talked about that at the middle school. Over the last 5 years, we've actually reduced quite a few classroom teaching positions at the elementary. I think we started when I got here, we were about, 119?
I pulled up the data. So 13-14, we had 114 sections with 2,500 kids. And this year we're at 102 sections.
102 sections. So we have over time reduced positions as we're able to do that. Oftentimes what happens is as our enrollment ebb and flows, especially at the elementary, you don't necessarily, when the enrollment goes down, it doesn't necessarily all happen in the same grade, in the same building. It's a little bit easier at the middle school and high school because you have one building and all in the same grade. The other piece I want to highlight too is we are, as it looks at the 2 teaching and learning positions, we are reducing a cabinet level position, in this, and so that's a pretty significant reduction in the district, and I want to make sure that is noted. One other change that's on the sheet from when you saw it a week ago is, and we talked about this during the meeting, we just cleaned it up, is, we're looking at potentially doing something different with our security officer positions, as we talked about. So it just didn't seem right to have that as a reduction on the sheet, so we took that reduction off because if we do something different with those positions, more than likely it would be adding some other things back, so it wouldn't be a reduction, it would be in lieu of type of thing. And so wanted to give you a little bit more clear picture as we work through some of those components.
All right,
Mr. President.
Yes, Rob.
Oh, okay, Rob.
Would you like to go, Sue?
No, you go ahead.
Thank you. Just the importance of adding a counselor at the high school as well as the middle school, the focus on 10% on special education.
And a clarifying point on that is because I think that was also a question that Sue had. This is where it comes out of the fund. Mm-hmm. So it's not so much an allocation of duties as it's just how it comes out of the general, how it's paid for.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any additional support for our special education?
I could have Erin speak to that because she would be working on the implementation of the positions.
So our special education students receive all of the same services that our regular ed students receive in addition to their special education services. So they are accounted for in our counseling allocation as well.
Okay, so they are getting
Yes.
access to additional support. That's fantastic.
Yes. Yep.
At the same time being smart with taxpayer dollars, so kudos to the team and really being our ability to provide more of a relationship with our students than just tactical, if you will, academic. So thank you and great job.
Sue, you have a comment or question?
I already sent this out, but and I think David's going to comment I asked more about the idea of what looked like eliminating instructional coaches, and of course, we've been having them appear regularly here, so can you?
Yes, yeah, I'll speak to that. So there's a slight reduction, a .4 reduction at the high school. Those funds would be, as part of the reallocation, to be able to get these counselors. So we recognized we had a greater need in the student service realm, and we needed to address that with counselors. And part of the way we made that work is by this reduction. The reason it's .4, it seems like a random number, we have 4.4 coaches at the high school. So what this allowed us to do was make whole positions, which just work better than partial positions where people are sharing teaching and coaching responsibilities.
Any further questions? If none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the recommended staffing for 2021.
So moved.
Is there? All right, second, Carrie gets the second. Rob got the motion. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Next up for consideration is the second reading. This is a policy 411 and rule 411, which passed, the first reading passed at our last meeting.
Yeah, so there's no change, just the second reading. Upon completion of the second reading, then this becomes board policy tonight. So administration's recommendation would be approved the second reading.
I'll make a motion, because I love this one.
Yep.
I'll move that we approve the updating and changes to Rule 411 along, Policy 411 along with Rule 411, updating our non-discrimination policy
Specifically as a second reading.
as a second reading.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to the second reading of 411, both the policy and the rule. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Next up, I would take this in a four-part motion because we have four separate fee areas that were all discussed at the last work session. First up would be school age care, and who wants, Tracy, would you be addressing that?
Yes. So as you said, this document is the same document as the work session document. School age care is part of Fund 80, and it's a fund that we try to make sure that we stay cost neutral and don't need to dip into operational funds or tax levied dollars. This increase is a 2% increase, which is 15 cents per session. That if I'm a family that uses the service both morning, afternoon session all week long, that amounts to about $3.26 per hour for that service. Over the last several years, we've increased the number of staff providing the service so that we are meeting the state licensing guidelines as far as our staff to student ratios. Also, increasing our programming so that we're supporting our kids' physical, social, emotional, and exploration needs. So improving our programming. The one piece that should also be noted in this is that the breakfast program that is part of school age care will not be provided within school age care. It will continue to be part of our offering that families may choose to purchase breakfast in the morning separate from school age care.
All right, thank you for your report. Is there a motion?
Mr. President, I move to accept the 2020-2021 recommended school age care fees as proposed.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second? All right, it's been moved and seconded. And just with that one change, I also note that you pointed out with the breakfast still being offered, just not being included in the session price. This
Correct.
makes morning sessions now on equal par with afternoon sessions, which
Correct.
obviously we're not serving breakfast in the afternoon. So.
Correct.
All right. So, all right.
Mr. President, quick qualifying question. Is it safe to assume that students who participate in morning school age care who qualify for free and reduced lunch would also qualify for a free and reduced breakfast?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Those families also qualify for a reduced school age care. Their costs are different. So if I qualify for free and reduced meals, my school age care fees are lower.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that question, Heather. Good question. All right, any other questions? Otherwise, hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approving the recommended fee changes with regard to school-age care, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Next up, we have for fees is the nutrition services. Tim?
We've got athletic events.
Okay.
Next.
All right, we'll go to athletics, that's fine.
All right, so this is the same as what was presented at the work session. No change in this. We were looking at that annual pass. We're going to do more homework on that and bring that back for next year.
All right. But basically, this puts all the sports with the exception of a couple where there's no charge, correct?
Right, yeah. It aligns the fees, the admittance fees, so they're all the same.
Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Carrie, second by Sue. Any further questions on athletic fee changes? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? And those athletic fees. Now we'll get to nutritional services. That's still Tim.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to have Judy come up too, Judy Smith,
Okay.
who's the director of the program. And once we get done talking through the information, Judy's going to talk a little bit about the things that we've been doing in nutrition services to generate interest in the program. So the proposal, as you remember from last time, is a proposed 15-cent increase. One of the things we did do was we had some updated numbers from CISA, so you can see where the CISA region is as far as the averages. So if you look at elementary lunch price, our proposal would be $2.60. Last year's CISA 1920 prices were at $2.47. And again, districts are looking at increasing those, so those will go up. You can expect those numbers to be higher when those other districts report out next year. Secondary lunch $2.80. We're right in line with that average from this current year. And when you look at adult lunch, you can see that. Secondary breakfast proposed $1.75. Last year's average was $1.51. And then skipping down to elementary breakfast, our proposal is for $1.40 for 2021, and this current year's CISA average is $1.37. Just some additional information when we look under pricing, and just looking at fund balance currently, or as of July 1st, 2019, our fund balance was $359,000. When we looked at projecting out where we think we're going to end 1920, we're projecting a deficit of about $100,000. So that will eat into that $359,000. If we project forward to 2021, again, without any price increase, we're looking at about a $100,000 deficit. So that'll take $200,000 out of that $359,000. So we're looking at roughly $145,000, which is less than 1 month of operating expenses for nutrition services for the operation. DPI, in comparison, allows 3 months of operating expenditures, or about a $450,000 fund balance. The 15-cent price increase will leave about 1.5 months of fund balance, or about $226,000. As we go through, we also have equipment needs. Equipment, as you know, isn't cheap. When we did the makeover at the high school, we invested in about $800,000 in food service equipment. We have needs at our other sites as well, so we have to replace equipment. One of the things that we're starting to see is that our repair costs are starting to go up, and we don't want to throw good money after bad, or bad money after good, and put a lot of money into old equipment that continually breaks down. So we do want to. What we want to do with that fund balance is we do want to keep current and try to replace additional equipment. Again, when we looked at that high school project, the last bullet point, high school project, we were able to take $170,000 out of fund balance. Our fund balance was sufficient It was actually up to the maximum that the state allows, so it was a good time to do that. We did have no increase in lunch prices for a few years in a row. I think about 3 years in a row. We've got additional data on that too. So when we look at participation rates, another report that we looked at was statewide. What do participation rates look like for, and these are sorted by free and reduced, because participation rates are going to vary. If you have, there is a bit of a correlation between low free and reduced districts and their participation rates. They are lower. And you'll get up into some, if you scroll down in that document, you'll see all districts are in there, and you get into some that are in what's called a community eligibility program. So if their free and reduced rates are 66% or higher, that means they can serve breakfast and lunch free of charge to all students in that school. So that is where you'll see your participation rates start to go up. Even those, however, some of those are a little lower as well. But you can see Hudson, we're at 13.79 free and reduced, and our participation rate is 44.49%. And then if you look at probably if you want to look at similar size or districts that are somewhat similar, you can go up to the 4 above that, and their free and reduced are within a percentage or so of ours. And if you go directly under us, McWanago School District, again, you can kind of get a feel for what the participation rates are, and that's for the National School Lunch Program. So I'll go on to the next document unless you've got questions. Okay. So we also wanted to take a look at our participation for the first 6 months of the year and compare that to last year's. So you can see in that first box we've got and again, this is National School Lunch Program. What we did was added, because our a la carte is such a large part of that, we did create an equivalency rate, and so what we do is we take National School Lunch Program percentage and add that estimated equivalency rate for a la carte to get an estimation of what our participation is for both of those programs. So you can see down at the bottom, for the first 6 months from September 18 to February 19, our average participation rate in National School Lunch is 46.51, and it does, you can see how that moves around from month to month. It does vary. And if we go to that second box down at the bottom, so that's for the current year, and the average is about a 44.48. So we've dropped down a little bit. However, interesting to note, February looks very strong, and February was up slightly last year too. So and our estimated equivalency a la carte is about 18%, so about 2.6 lower than last year. If we look at the participation rate for National School Lunch Program and our price increase history, we go back to 2014 and project out to this year, you can see we had those 3 years in a row where we didn't increase lunch prices because we had sufficient fund balance, and it wasn't something that we needed to do. So we don't want to pass on price increases unless we're in a position where we really need to. And then you can see that participation rate. That's one of the things we're trying to address is how do you get that National School Lunch Program interesting to students? How do you kind of revive that? So that, in a nutshell, is some of the information that we analyzed and looked at, and right now I'll turn it over to Judy to talk for a few minutes about some of the things that she's doing she and her staff are doing with students.
Thanks for having me. One of the things that we've been doing this year is meeting with our student groups. And so our elementary students, we have almost all our groups done. And one of the things that we're doing with our little ones is First of all, we're taste testing, so we want them to know that it's their program. So we've taste tested over 43 items with the little students and the big students. Once we taste test with them, then we go back after we decide, okay, we're gonna put these items on the menu, and we do surveys with them to make sure, did they change their mind? Because especially our K through 5, they like to change their mind. So these are the surveys we do after we put something on the menu to make sure that those items stick. One of our surveys, for example, chicken Alfredo, we had it on the menu, but we changed out the recipe because they said it wasn't cheesy enough. So Willow, for example, 89 of the students were questioned, do you like it still? 78 of them still liked it. 68 at North were asked, 64 liked it, 69 at River were asked, 57 liked it, 88 at Holton, 72 liked it. Comments like very tasty, finger licking good, things like this and then we write that down and then we keep it so that we get their reactions. Most kids loved it was the comment at HP. 173 kids were asked and 132 liked it. So we're double checking to make sure that once we taste tested it, they liked it. So out of the items that we taste tested this year, we taste tested 43 items, but we didn't put 43 new items on the menu because that would be too much change for people to handle. We put 4 items on at the elementary. We put a lot more items on at the middle school and at the high school, of course, because they can handle change a lot more than our little ones can. In addition, when we meet with our student groups, we do a lot of nutrition education and educating our students. We ask them to help us help the little ones understand why are we doing what we do. So this was something new we did this year. We put up a sign that said, what is a serving size? When you go out in the real world, you don't have spoodles or measured cups to eat, so you don't know how many carrots is a half a cup. So if we have broccoli on, with cauliflower on, with carrot sticks, and with celery, we will have all 4 signs up. So we asked our students, do you know why we have this up? And our advisory students said, yes, we do. And I said, why is that? And they said, we don't want to be sent back through the line to go through our kids, our friends, to get more carrots because we didn't have enough. So then we asked, does this mean you only can have a half a cup? And they said, no, we can take as much as we can eat. And I said, does that mean you only can have a half a cup of cauliflower? And they said, no, we can have a half a cup or more of everything, but we have to have at least 1 serving of a half a cup. So they know and they understand what it is, which our requirement is 1 half a cup serving of 1 item and anything else they can have, but they have to have at least 1 half a cup. So these are nutrition education tools for them, but it also helps them. So that's something new that we did this year. We also went to 100% beef products this year with no fillers. And that way it's a better quality product. And at our high school, we have certain groups of students coming in to help us. One of the things we're doing in the next week or 2 is we're doing a videotape, or I don't know what the terminology is, but they're going to do a screening of going through the lunch line. What does it mean? What are you supposed to do? And we're working with students on what do they want at the school. They've been doing different surveys for us, and they've been helping us get students involved. So besides just doing taste testing with them, they're helping us figure out what do the students really want? What are they missing? So when we meet with the students, we're asking them, is there anything you're missing off the menu? What else do you want? And then the importance of taking our taste testing seriously as they vote on the foods for the menu. So besides the student groups, our next step is to try to figure out how to get a parent advisory group going. So that's going to be our next step for our team. And we've improved the flow at the middle school, which we believe has impacted our participation. Our participation actually has gone up at the middle school, which we're pretty proud of. And then we added breakfast this year for those of you, I think you all might know that. We've added new items, and we're changing the items out as the students say, yes, this is working, or no, we don't like this. They like one smoothie better than the other. Some of the kids want to make their own smoothies, so we're trying to figure out how do we accommodate that. they don't want us to mix it, they want to mix it. So we're trying to find a container that they can do that in. So anything that they come up with, as soon as they come up with, we're trying to come up with ideas. So those are the types of things that we're working on with the students.
Mr. President, may I ask
Sue.
Judy a question? Yeah. I occasionally have lunch at EP Rock, and I loved your experimental grilled broccoli, so just say that. But anyway, I noticed the kids really like the finger food, vegetables, and fruits, and I just can't get over that. And I don't know if it's because they're small or what. I mean, you know the psychology on that, but I'm just impressed at what they'll wolf down, and here it is, fruits and vegetables, so.
They really do, and they like to be able to pick it up, and they don't like to have big pieces for whatever reason. And the roasted cauliflower does not look that appetizing, but believe it or not, that is one of their favorites. And jicama is one of their favorites this year. And people that haven't tried jicama don't know why, but I did put that on this year, and they like the jicama. Right. Very interesting. And the point is to try to expose them to things that they won't have at home, possibly. That's the whole idea.
All right. Thank you very much for your report. Appreciate that.
Mr. President?
Yes, Rob.
Just a quick question with regards to participation. And kudos to you and your team for all the taste testing and the outreach and everything else you've done. And Tim, thanks for all the work here as well.
Sure.
With all that great work, we're still seeing a reduction in participation. You've done all the right things. Outside of price increase, do you have any idea why we're losing participation?
I think it takes a while to get momentum to turn it around, and I think we need the parent advisory group. I've done that in other districts, and I think we need to have that, and I think we need more marketing. We also have brought in the chefs for training for the staff, and I think that that's key. I started the back-to-school in-service, and the more training to make sure that we're not holding food too long and that we're cooking food in batch cooking is key.
Yeah.
So if you want to improve quality, you have to improve the batch cooking, and you have to make sure that things are done right just in time. So those are all the things that we need to do. So there's a few things we have to make sure we're doing consistently, and that's what we're working on. So we had customer service training at the start of the year, with this being our first in-house in-service that I did this year. Brokers came in and 2 chefs came in knife skills training. So, but I do think we need a parent advisory group, which is our next step, and I think we need more staff training with the batch cooking and then not holding. And I think that's gonna help. But when you do increase, you will see a reduction, but you really don't have a choice, especially when you have unlimited fruits and vegetables, because you're looking at the cost of fruits and vegetables and you're looking at your meal costs. So it's kind of a catch-22.
All right.
I hope
Any
that-
other questions or comments?
Well, I do just quick. I think you're doing everything right. Customer service, you're talking about a parent group, taste testing, everything that you're doing is all the right things. But that said, I mean, still, when you increase price, to your point, you see a reduction in participation. And we're a wealthy community, and I think we're very fortunate for that. Free and reduced being 13-point-something%, it's a blessing. Likely there are some families who probably could be on, but choose not to for whatever reason, and there are other families that are less fortunate. From my standpoint, for whatever it's worth, when I was little, I was on that cusp financially, my family, and I would rather not increase price and not see a reduction in participation and see the district come up with that money elsewhere than lose kids. That's just my 2 cents. If we lose, and you look at the rates where we're losing kids every time we increase price, and it's dramatic sometimes, every one kid that can't afford a lunch, don't know for sure, who knows, but is one less kid that maybe is eating lunch. And I'm challenged with that. So, I mean, for that, if we're taking action tonight, I'm not supportive of a price increase.
Well, I just want to correct some because the reduction in the in participation was greater when we had no price increases than what it is since we had some price increases.
If you
So
look-
just look at the document. It went from 47% to 44.5. It's not a large decrease. That's 2.5%. But when we had no price increases, our reduction went from 55% to 47%. So that's an 8% reduction during the 3 years we had no price increase. And it's gone up more. So plus year over year with the changes that are being made, note that February of this year compared to February of last year, participation is up. We started off with a low month in September, had a great increase into October, so which also spans last year. Maybe it's a continuing dislike of the food for some students, and they don't want to try it. So you start out with low. Maybe word gets around that things are improving, and maybe we can turn that around. But I don't see that we've proven any specific link to reductions in participation to price. And furthermore, I don't think we should be running a deficit. I think it should be a standalone program that, you know, pays for itself. And we are an affluent district. You pointed that out, and I agree with that. And if you look at the participation rates statewide, we are actually better than almost any district our size with our percentage of student participation. Now, some of those are from districts not in our CISA, but the fact that we are proposing being maybe a dime more than our CISA average, to me is not significant when you consider our standard of living or cost of living in Hudson is more than Turtle Lake or some of these other small districts 50 to 70 miles away.
Mr. President?
Yeah.
I think, one of my concerns when I look at just the general, keeps going down. I thought when the high school was rebuilt, we brought in, more space, more access, better flow to that area, a huge investment in equipment. I assumed we would see, higher, going the other direction back up. I agree with, what both of you guys are saying. It's troubling to see it continue to go down.
And if I may, to your point, Jamie, my comments have always been based on everything being the same over time. In fact, it has not been the same. We've done very well under your leadership. Kudos. Things were not as they are today back then. And so one could make all sorts of arguments as to why participation declined, but the fact of the matter is today, with your leadership, we've done a lot of the right things. And imagine if we weren't doing a lot of the right things, what that participation rate might look like. And again, for every one child that we aren't able to feed a lunch, I've been told when I came onto the board, this is not a business. This is not a business. Kids are not products. Our job is to educate our kids and provide an environment that is safe and secure and nurturing for our children. And if we raise prices and it causes one kid to not have a lunch, I don't feel good about that. And again, that's just one person talking.
Right.
You're making all sorts of valid comments, certainly. That's just my 2 cents.
But if you look at the participation rates when broken down within our district, you've got roughly 22% of the meals are by free and reduced kids who are on free and reduced lunch, yet we're only at 13%. So the free and reduced people are participating at a much higher rate than the affluent kids, all right? And that is consistent with the rest of the state. If you look at the state participation rates, there's school districts that are 100% free and reduced, and they have 100% participation because maybe that's the only meal those kids are getting.
Mm-hmm.
But I have not seen any evidence. If I did, I would agree with you. I haven't seen any evidence that raising the price is what restricts people from participation. I haven't seen it yet. I saw reduction in participation greater when there were no increases.
Well, and again, there are variables we're not taking into consideration, I'm sure. But that's just, again, my 2 cents.
Mr. President?
Carrie.
I guess, Tim, this question maybe is for you. From 14 to 16, there was no price increases, but then in 2017, is that reflecting the 10-cent increase? So can we compare the numbers between 14 and 16 and then 17 to 19 rather than 14 to 17?
So you're asking, the question you're asking
I
is...
think, my point is I interpreted that in 2017, when it had dropped 4.2%, that there was a 10% or 10-cent increase that year.
Right, yeah.
I just didn't know if I was reading it correctly.
So your 16 was at 51.42, then 17 we had the price increase, and it went down to 47.21. But there are a number of different variables. There's not a perfect way to pull out and say this is how much it went down purely because of price increase.
But we can compare 55% participation to 51.4 with no increase, but then 47 to 44 is reflecting 40-cent increase over time.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
All right. So is there a motion or more questions? I mean, I'm not trying to cut off debate, but it seems like it's been discussed quite a bit. Is there a motion?
I would move to approve the price increase as suggested by the administration.
Second.
Motion by Carrie, second by Sue. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
All right, motion passes. Next up on the agenda is facility rental fees. I guess this is Tracy?
Correct. So the document that's in front of you is a list of our fees from last year, and we are recommending just keeping the fees as they are currently. So no increase at this time.
And again, looking at programs, attempting to make them stand alone. I know with the use of the new high school, we don't have a lot of years of comparison, but I'm assuming, Tim, you're making this recommendation with Tracy based both on participation levels, but also, just looking at the numbers and whether it's supporting the extra staff that we have.
Yes. Yep, that would be correct.
Okay. Is there a motion then to follow through with a recommendation of no increase on fees?
So moved.
Okay. Rob's moving. Is there a second?
I would like to second, but I'd also like to thank Judy before she leaves for her presentation. Sorry.
Yes, Judy, I did that in the minute. Thanked you in the middle of the thing, and we had a lot more questions. So thank you for staying extra late.
Thanks, Judy.
Appreciate that. All right. Is there? We've got a motion, a second now on the facility fees. Is there any further questions or comments on those? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. And next up, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, we are adjourned.
I sent you guys.